So welcome to the third episode of the Bear Pit Pod. We've got a special guest, Martin Smith, from head honcho at the Oatcake, is it? Head honcho?
Yeah, still, yeah.
Head honcho. Also write for the Sentinel column.
Yeah.
Under the Soulless Smudge alias.
Yeah, that's me, yeah.
We've also got Ben, who's not been on the pod before.
No, out guys.
So Ben is a blogger for Bear Pit TV. You may have seen many an article for. You've done plenty of.
Yeah, I've done loads by now.
You can find us on all the usual places: YouTube, SoundCloud, Acast, iTunes. I think that's all of them. Is there any more? No, that's all.
No, you go.
That's all. With every guest we do have on the pod, Martin, we ask for first, best, and worst Stoke memory. So what's your first ever Stoke memory?
1968, went down to play West Brom. That's too long ago, isn't it, by the way? 0-0 night match, and I hadn't got a clue what was happening. I think I was only 6, and didn't go again then for a couple of seasons. But I still remember it, like nothing happened, and I think I wanted to go after 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Which is a bit like how I felt at West Brom last week.
It sounds very similar to when Liverpool 8-0.
Yeah. Oh, right.
I think that's the one that resonates most with
so
me.
So that was first.
That was first. Best?
There's been so many.
There's been a lot.
There's no way in 48 years I can condense it to one. But very briefly, ending Leeds' unbeaten run in 73-4. I was only 11 at the time, but I knew that was a big deal.
Right.
You know, they hadn't lost all season, and we were the first team to beat after being 2-0 down. What a game that was. I think probably beating Cardiff away in the playoffs 2-0. It seems so small time now, but that was something special. You know, we had to be bussed down there, and there was only 670 Stokies in the ground, and you know, to level it in the last minute and then win in extra time. I've never known emotion like that. I had to go and sit away from the pitch for 10 minutes when O'Connor equalised, because I couldn't, when he levelled the tie, because I just couldn't function. I was that,
take it in.
Yeah, to be that close to disaster, another year down there. That would have been 5 years at that level. And then beating Liverpool 6-1, that's just, you know, we all dreamed of the Premier League, didn't we, for 23 years in the trenches, down in the lower divisions, and you know, that was like a culmination to beat Liverpool 6-1.
Yeah.
You know, who could have believed that? You know, on the day we lost at home to Cambridge, or you know, Wrexham, you know, they all came and beat us at the Britannia Stadium. Tranmere, Huddersfield, you know, they all came and trounced us there. And you know, who could have believed that day we'd beat Liverpool 6-1? So them only 3.
Right. Worst.
I think probably Birmingham 7-0, because we knew the club was really, really in trouble, and that stuff had gone wrong. The club had announced everyone was up for sale that week, and quelle surprise, they go and lose 7-0.
Yeah.
And I knew that day we were going to go down, and like I say, that led to, you know, the big 4 years down at that third tier again, and it ripped the board apart. You had fans on the pitch, others, you know, storming the Waddington Suite, and you look at what a well-run club we are now, and a world apart, yeah, and free transport to games, no season ticket rise for, if they do it this year, that'll be 10 years. I don't know whether they're going to or not. And it's an almost unrecognisable club from that to where we are now, and it really was for me the lowest moment. Not because we lost 7-0. I've seen Stoke let 6 and 7 in. It was what it all represented and where we were going. You know, we've just moved into a new stadium, and that's normally a boost for clubs, and we actually got relegated in our first season. I thought, that's just so Stoke. We must be the only team that got relegated the first year it moved into a ground. Let me know if I'm wrong, but I can't think of another.
I can't think of any. Can you, Ben?
No, I can't think of any either. Yeah. West Ham this season maybe, but we'll see.
Fingers crossed.
Yet to could happen.
Yeah.
So how did the Oatcake start? What kicked it off?
We bizarrely, the fanzine thing was just starting, and we didn't really know about that. We were a group of lads who used to play five-a-side up at the YMCA up Hanley, on that little five-a-side pitch they've got there, the AstroTurf. And we just talked one time, we were just telling jokes about Stoke, and and we just talked about doing more like a rag mag, a student rag mag with the jokes, and I don't know if they still do those. They used to sell them for charity, and we thought of doing one of those and just try and fill it full of Stoke jokes and football in general. And as that was happening, one of the guys, he works for Six Towns Radio now, Rob Ledgar, and he just said, look, you heard about these fanzines, I think it was a Celtic one and an Arsenal one, and he sent off for copies, and by then we'd actually done our first copy, this really rubbish 8-page thing, and these super glossy 48-page things came back. But that was how it started, and what we really, when we decided then it can't just be about jokes, and we felt like we just wanted to give Stoke fans a voice, and that's really been the sole thing about we want to promote the club. That is so important, because if we all have a moan, don't we? But if you don't support your own club and you don't be an advocate for your own club, then who is going to do that? It's up to us to do that. But at the same time, you've also got to represent people's views, and we know people at the time, because I was one of them who would send what I thought was a hard-hitting letter to the Sentinel complaining about something, and it didn't appear. So we kind of had a policy then that we would print anything we received that wasn't libelous or in any way unacceptably offensive. Not that it hurt somebody's feelings, but that it crossed other lines. So we didn't want that, and that's what we wanted to do. So we said there'd be no advertising, we wouldn't be answerable to anybody, we wouldn't be compromised in that fashion. That nobody could say you can't put that because it goes against, we don't like that and we're your sponsors.
Yeah, I mean, we find, because obviously we give the fans voice now, and we're also opinionated, and we try and not to upset the club. But do you face the same struggles as us sometimes, where at the same time you try and have an opinion and the results aren't going well? Or
well, that thing about the it's really tricky, because at the time when we were most, I hate to use the word hostile, it was frustrated, when we were most angry with the club were nearly always fantastic with us. They never turned us down for an interview, and occasionally if we got something badly wrong, one of the chief execs, whether it be Jonathan Fuller or Tony Scholes now or Jez Moxley, before that they would often just phone us and say, look, you've got that wrong, or this is our opinion. And they were even like Keith Humphreys and Peter Coates. We had discussions with them, and they were really good about it. So we've tried not to be compromised. Now, somebody actually approached me, I think it was last year, going, you're not campaigning anymore. Campaigning against what? In the 9th year in the Premier League, 3 top half finishes. This is kind of what we always wanted. When we were set up, I think the last game before we did the first Oatcake, we lost at home to Leyton Orient, and of course that would actually become a fairly regular event, but at the time they were in the 4th division, we were in the 2nd before all the restructuring, and we'd won the away leg, typical Stoke, won the away leg, lost the home leg, lost on penalties, and it was seen as a major embarrassment, and so that's kind of where we were coming from. We really had close on 20 years, 2 decades of real frustration, and because again, we say about being an advocate for your own club, we always knew what Stoke City could be. And sure enough, this is where we are. I grew up in a time where I never took it for, well, maybe I did take it a bit for granted, but I grew up in a time where in 75-6, the magazine Shoot predicted Stoke to win the title. Derby won it actually, but they predicted Stoke at the start of the season, and we finished 5th. Should have won the title, really unlucky with injuries. And so, that's the club we could be, and not that we had a right to it, or we were entitled to, but that we could be. And to go from that to 23 years outside the top flight is really hard. So the criticism thing, we weren't doing it because we wanted to moan. It's never been a platform for moaning, unfortunately. Especially with the message board, that's kind of what it's become, and that hurts us a little bit, as fans as well. That you provide a platform, and it's most known for its more extreme views, which is never intended.
Does that take a lot of sort of administrating.
Yeah, there's several people I had to pull away from it. I couldn't do it anymore.
Couldn't stand
It was too upsetting. So I genuinely mean that. It was set up as a medium for Stoke fans, and when it first started and the internet was quite new, and I'm almost, it sounds terrible to say because I couldn't do it, people had to set it up for me, but it was quite hard to get on the internet at first. You had to be almost a little bit technically savvy, and you had to download programs and go on CompuServe or AOL. So when it first went on, it was a lot more. It sounds horrible.
Difficult to access.
Well, there were brighter people on there, and I think people knew how lucky they were to have this medium. And we used to have things like the OBPU, which was the Oatcake Board piss up, and people would meet up, and it was absolutely fantastic. Now, if it turned up, it would be a ruck. The police would have to be there. There's people who hate each other so much. So
Dave's using a disguise.
Yeah, there's several people who. You've only got to look at the comments section in the newspaper or even on a YouTube thing to see how vicious people get from the anonymity of a keyboard, and unfortunately that manifests itself on the Oatcake as well. So, but getting back here, the criticism, it's really hard. Nobody wants to criticise the club, not any sane person anyway, and we have some who clearly don't meet that level. But it's something that we felt had to be done. It was never intended to be personal, but to see Stoke in the mess they were in for, in 23 years, a quarter of a century out of the top flight, and watching Barnsley, Swindon, Bradford, Burnley, and all these Oldham, these clubs getting into the top flight, and seeing Stoke stuck down at the third tier, it was really hard, and that's what all we ever wanted, was a better club, and we have that, and so great. I hope it lasts forever.
And was it an immediate success?
Yeah, fantastic.
And how did it grow and change?
It just got passed around. There was heavy emphasis on humour, and I thought at the time we didn't quite realise some of the legal ramifications of what we were saying and doing. Got a bit excited and got slapped into place once or twice, fortunately quite nicely by people. And it was amazing. I mean, we were going to print 100 for the first issue, and at the last minute, I'm afraid to say, we kind of stole the copies. We used somebody's works photocopier. We didn't even have it printed, it was photocopied. And we were in there late one night because he had the security codes for the company, and we printed it off. I'm not going to say who or what company. And we printed it off, and he just said, "Sod, let's run." It was only a few pages. Let's run some extra copies. So we did 300, sold out instantly. There was a meeting 2 days later up at the Keel Hall, I think, to launch, or it was a lifeline meeting. It used to be that pay £2 a week, you get £1,000 a week, then handed out as a prize, and that was like major money for the club. We printed another 100 that night. People were literally ripping them out of our hands, and so we went from 300. 400 that first issue. By issue 6 we were up to 1,500. By issue 10 we were selling over 3,000. At its height, we were shifting, I'm trying to think, we cleared 5,000 a couple of times. I think 5,400 was the most we ever sold for one issue, and but it was like 20p at the time. But there was no internet, there was no social media. So, we really were. We used to put like 4 pages of letters in every issue, and we couldn't fit them all in. A lot of issues we could have had 8 pages of letters because, we have the immediacy now of social media, of tweeting, of Facebook, and things like that. And anyone who's on like the Google sites and stuff and podcasts, that didn't exist. So it was just seen as new, exciting, and. It was astonishing. I wish we'd been charging £1 for it back then, to be honest with you. I think I'd live in a better house now.
Yeah, probably. Do you have a favourite issue? Is that too difficult with the amount?
Yeah, I mean, tomorrow's is number 609.
I saw you post on Twitter some stats the other week.
Coming up to 15,000 pages now as well. We should reach that next season, 15,000 pages. It's amazing. No, I have some favourite covers. We did one in issue 27, which had Nelson Mandela on the front. We used to get together because it was typewriters in those days. It was no word processors, and we'd try and get together. There was about 4 of us, usually at least 3 of us anyway, and we were just sat in my living room on the day Nelson Mandela got released from prison, and we did his first words, "Have Stoke won anything yet, Dr. Winnie Mandela?"
I think I remember that.
Yeah, and the answer is, "Don't be daft, Nelson, you haven't been away that long, 27 years." And that got picked up by everyone, and Man United, the joke got stolen on Manchester radio, and it was done about have Man United won the title yet, but they nicked it off us because we used to send a copy to Manchester radio because they were very good at promoting fanzines. So that was ours, and it went around the country like wildfire. So we looked very fondly at that, and we did suicide pills on the back of issue 18. What a job that was! 4,000 copies. And we put 2 sweeteners, sugar sweeteners on. We sellotaped on the back of each issue because it was the game away at Vale. And we said if Stoke lose, these are suicide tablets. And so we had to sellotape in 2 days 8,000 tablets onto the back of.
You probably wouldn't get away with that now.
We didn't get away with it. Then the police rang us. A woman had complained and said, what are these tablets? Oh, this Sweetex, I think, was the company at the time. And he's like, you really shouldn't have done this, because some people are frightened. But I think it was one woman, so he said, yeah, you should have cleared it with us first. But okay. So yeah, they're more things within an issue, I think when we reached issue 100, we did a big one. The biggest issue we ever did was 52 pages after we won promotion under Macari. And that was just a glorious celebration of all things Stoke. And that's probably, if I had to pick one, that would be it, number 52. Yeah. Oh no, sorry, I beg your pardon, number 80. It was 52
It's
pages.
mad that you can remember the numbers.
Yeah, no, believe me, I can't. The other week I was looking for an article to reference, and I was looking through. We've got them all, there's like 600 copies, and I was looking at front covers that if somebody brought them down and said to me, yours or fake, there's some of them I wouldn't actually remember doing.
Yeah.
I'd actually go, it did mix them up with some we had done and some we hadn't. There's some of ours I wouldn't have been able to pick out.
You've done that many.
Yeah, I've done that many. Yeah.
You put out a post recently saying, I think it was on Twitter not long ago or so, saying that you could see sort of an end for the Oatcake coming or on the horizon with sort of new media and.
Yeah, that's that's how it moves on. We were new and exciting, and.
But it'd be really sad.
Yeah, I think it'd be
I
really
think
sad.
the Oatcake's a Stoke institution.
Well, we think so. But whatever we think, if anybody bought a copy tomorrow, there's really good stuff in there. We've got really good writers. We've got people like Rob Doolan, who you should speak to, who's a really intelligent guy. Trouser Dog. Some of the stuff we write as well. I like to think, and it'd be a shame, but it's just not where things are going now. I know that newspapers are really struggling. You look at the offices the Sentinel used to have, and no one covers Stoke more than the Sentinel do. And they offer a really vital service, and they're struggling. They moved into smaller offices, and they had to move the content online, and that's kind of the way it's heading. And it's sad, but. I've got 2 sons who are Stoke fans. They don't read. Yes, I know. They don't read the big articles you write. Sometimes I'll say to them, "Have you read that?" No, and but they're all over Twitter and social media, and that's just the way it is. And I think you have to accept when it's the end. And also I'm 54 now. I started when I was 25, and 29 years. I've been doing it for more than half my life, and I have to be realistic and honest that. I still think we're just about relevant, but I think we're clinging on by our fingernails now.
Oh, how's obviously because you've got the message board as well, how's that doing? Because obviously that's online, is that still going from strength to strength?
Yeah, that's an easy thing to do, we just have to moderate it and remove the lunatics and the idiotic views. Yeah, that is a full-time job. So we've got 5 people who do it. I withdrew from doing it, I couldn't do it anymore. Just the amount of emails you get every day from people complaining. And I love this as well. People come out with something really outrageous and vicious. You remove the post and ban them. They always immediately email you. Or they try that, but we're too clever for that. Most of the time, we know. And there's ways. There's ways of knowing, and we were very clever. And that even frustrates me even more. But they'll go, whatever happened to free speech? There's no free speech. That's our board. You know, you're not going to come on there and, you know, we just take your insults or allow you to, you know, spurt out the most vile bilge. I do actually think, I don't know, I wouldn't want to overstate it. I think the message board has hurt the fanzine, genuinely.
Really?
I really do, yeah. And times I hear people saying, oh, bloody oatcake, and I always try and ask, what are you talking about? It's always the message board. You know, and the fanzine, like say 609 issues of pure pride in our club, but we're becoming known more
for the online
thing. When people, most of the time now, when people say the oatcake, they mean the message board, and you know, we only have to lose a game, and sure enough, people who've watched a stream, they're on it even before the game's finished, and you know, sack Hughes out and things like that. And there was an amazing thing a couple of years ago with one of the other Stoke Facebook sites, who somebody came on, a complete idiot who got ridiculed instantly by everyone, going, let's do a Hughes out red card demo. And it went on this other site, and they said the Oatcake are organising a Hughes out, and the next thing, their Facebook page is full of dozens of posts going, you know, calling us all names and saying, well, it wasn't us, you know, biggest fans going in the hot Hughes, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I love when someone posts and it immediately shit bin.
Yeah.
Shit bin.
I mean, I think that we know on Bear Pit TV, I mean, we have fans sending their opinions, and in a similar way, we can get tarred with the same brush. I mean, we're only there to provide a voice, I think, which I'm sure which is what you tried to do with the message board.
But
I think you have done.
That was really what it was meant to be. 1996, that message board started. So that's into 22 years now.
That's before things like Facebook and Twitter. You know, that's new.
The first one, the message board, was actually set up by us. There was a company in Leek called Fenêtre, and you know, which is French for Windows, I think, and so it was very clever.
Snazzy.
Yeah, and they actually built us one bespoke, and then another company, I can't even remember the name now, up near Macro, near that Limehouse estate, they built us another one after that. Moved to a bigger thing. Yeah, these things weren't readily available, and we put so much effort into it, and it's a crying shame. It genuinely upsets me, seriously, that everyone connected with the Oatcake are like really passionate Stoke fans, and it does kind of cut me like a knife. If I don't think people say it for my effect, but I do overhear it sometimes. Those idiots on the Oatcake called the Oatcake's a disgrace, and what they're talking about, we've got like I think 15,000 members or something, registered members, and it's 20 people can trash it completely. I mean, I won't say you because it's not fair. There's one poster on there. He's actually he's got the most posts of anyone, and he just basically destroys every single thread, with his unending negativity, and it's
not buying.
Well, I didn't say I didn't say that, did I? And it's just, it kills me, honestly, it really does. And we were at Southampton last season. We won 1-0. Bojan scored a brilliant goal, back flick. We should have won by more. We were the better team throughout. There was one little scare at the end. Walshide probably should have been a penalty. Was it Pele, I think?
I think
Pele,
so.
Probably just nicked him and just inside the area. And the referee waved it away. That we dodged a bullet there. But we should have won 4-1 that day. Stoke were brilliant. And we were walking back to the car. We'd parked about a mile from the ground. And we actually said that everyone's going to love that. Great win away at Southampton. They finished 7th and we won away there. And we actually jokingly said, I bet somebody finds something to moan. That one person, sure enough, get on. Unbelievable. And he wouldn't back down. It was.
So speaking of sort of notorious characters on there, obviously there's Dave Hughes as well.
Yeah.
Do you know who he is?
No. Some people do know. We agonise over that, whether it's a wind-up account or not.
But there's been instances where I think he's got it spot on.
But then there's other times where he's way off.
Yeah, I think
if you throw enough darts at the dartboard, you're going to get a bullseye every now and then, aren't you?
Yeah, of course.
And I thought there was a great one time. Not that it was my favourite poster, but Albert Tatlock went on once and did a great parody post. We may or may not be looking at a player who may be right-footed, may be left-footed, could be a forward or a defender, because it's all that vague, you know. Yeah. And then he carried that thread on for quite a while, and that was my favourite thread for a long time.
Favourite thread?
Yeah,
for
for
a
a while.
About to ask you that, what is your favourite?
No, there's too many again. There's been some brilliant ones, you know, and but there's too many again. If you think there's been too many issues, we must be into millions of threads, so I can't.
Oh yeah,
or at least posts anyway. Yeah. And there are times again, and I own it. I have to just walk away from it. I can't bear it. It's not because I don't value other people's opinions, but people paint themselves into a corner and they won't come out of it. And then other people, because they're trying to counterbalance a view they disagree with, they go too far the other way. And so you just got this, you know, you've got the name, but it really is us Bear Pit, because it's vicious, honestly, you know. But it's against each other. You know, obviously Bear Pit's meant to be aggressive and a dangerous thing to somebody else, not amongst ourselves.
Yeah, between each other.
Yeah, that's a shame, that is.
So, what do you make of the club right now? Obviously, you've seen a lot more of the club through the years than me and Ben, because we're obviously older. But you know, are you really happy with where we are now? Are you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I read. I'm pretty sure it was you guys. I didn't know if it's you. I apologise. Saying anything less than 8th this year is
Tom.
That was Tom. Yeah.
And I was kind of like, everyone, we've all got a different view of things, and you can't have a go at somebody just because they're younger than you and they've become accustomed to something else.
To success.
I frame everything against losing at Torquay or Telford or Nuneaton. I was at Nuneaton the night they scored the last minute goal. And
was that when Pottermus decapitated the mascot?
That was the home game. This was the replay.
Yeah,
that was the funniest thing I've ever seen at a football match. Nicked the mascot's head and ran off with it.
Yeah,
that was. If you put Benny Hill music to that was brilliant. No, so I'm looking through that lens, you know.
Yeah, of course.
And then, I will never complain about 9th ever. I think there are questions to be asked now. That 9th 3 seasons ago, and 9th after we've spent 55 million on 4 players. But for me personally, if we have an average season where, you know, say we beat Man United or go and win at Everton and record these other victories and beat Chelsea one year or something like that, and but we still finish enough highs to counterbalance the lows. I'll never be unhappy with that. So I think the club's in a really good place. And I don't think, somebody put once again on the message board, we're run like a non-league outfit. You've got to be joking. It's utter nonsense. It's palpable nonsense. We offer free transport to supporters to away games.
Does any other club in the Premier League do that?
Not regularly.
Yeah.
They'll do the odd match.
Yeah. I know. I mean, we've even thrown in the youth game.
Yeah, Preston should be going to that, and then there hasn't been a price rise for. It could be 10 years. If they don't increase it this year, you're looking at a decade. And you know, to be accused of being like a non-league setup then, just because what people actually disagree with is the transfer policy, you know. And of course there's things like, you know, I can't believe we didn't sign another keeper at the start of the season. I thought we got away with that, you know, if Grant had got injured.
Oh yeah.
You know, you know, we were back into Shea Given and Jakob Haugaard again. And so there's that, but these are individual things. As a whole, the club is actually really well run. We're a model club, you know. I think the Independent did it.
The local owner.
Yeah, that's right. We're actually run by a local family now, and that's increasingly rare. There are not many of them. Burnley, maybe.
Yeah, there's not
Bournemouth aren't now. They've got the Rich Russian. Palace just about, but they've got the Americans in, but I know Steve Parish is still involved.
And to link that with a local business too.
Yeah,
that's
incredible. The largest employer in the city, outside of the NHS and the City Council. You know? It's a remarkable success story. The Independent did an article, which I was very fortunate they asked for my input on that, about Stoke City, and then you look at things. They referenced I thought the club genuinely changed. After Peter Coates had come back, and I was at the meeting when he came back. He had supporters groups in, and very fortunately the Oatcake was asked to attend actually by Stoke City Supporters Club. we hadn't got an invite, but they said, can they come along? It was very nice of them to do that. Really appreciated it. And Peter Coates actually said at this meeting that you can fight the battles of the past if you want, but it's going to be different this time. And and if we all get behind it, and he had a vision for promotion in 3 years, and we did it in 2. And I thought there was an instant though where that happened with the very famous thing where Rory Delap had his leg broken against Sunderland. And that could have been the end of his career. And Stoke actually went to him in hospital and gave him a contract a couple of days later. And I thought, man, this is the club I want to support. They'd promised to sign him verbally, but they didn't have to do that, and they did. And I think ever since that moment, I can't see how you can criticise. Yeah, well, it worked out amazingly well. So, and I know if you speak to Rory Delap, he'll tell you about that as well. And the Independent picked up on this, and they equated it with how Liverpool were treating Flanagan, and he had to go in every month and prove his fitness, and he was literally on a month-to-month contract. Big club like Liverpool doing that with a local lad. And we signed a player with a broken leg, shattered as well, actually, a shattered leg. And so ever since then, that's going back over 10 years now, 10, 11 years. I think the club's been really well run. And I think where we are now is a reflection of how the club's been run. And again, we all look through a different lens. If anyone had told me 15 years ago, we'd have 3 9th place finishes in the Premier League, I really would have bitten the hand off, and I probably would have refused to believe it.
Yeah, no, definitely. So what do you make of, obviously we've spoken about the club, what do you make of Stoke this season so far? Without going into too much time specific, because we don't know when this pod will go up.
Given everything I've just said, and that still stands, this season is a standalone unit, a little bit frustrating, and I think could finish a little bit disappointing. We have an article in tomorrow's issue about a point projection. I think best case scenario, we've got 14 games left. If we win 6, draw 6 and only lose 2, that's best case scenario. Now, think of the teams we've still got to play. Tottenham, Chelsea, Arsenal, Man City, Southampton away. And if we only lose 2 of them, win 6, draw 6, that'll be 53 points. And that's a grandstand finish to the season. Put it the other way, we could finish as low as 40. I actually think, looking at extrapolating what we've done so far this season against over the 38 games against that, probably going to finish on about 46 points, 47. And I think that is a step backwards. It really is. And as I said earlier, when we signed those players, we've got Imbula isn't playing, Shaqiri seems to be permanently injured, and
He's made a bog roll then.
Yeah, it seems that way sometimes. Fantastic, when he's in form and the things he can do, and I'd be interested to know what the board think. I think they're clever enough to understand that if a manager is guaranteeing you halfway finishes every year, given the money that's coming in, and we have to accept that. It's better to be kind of where we are and getting that money every year as a club than risk everything and go down. And that's not an excuse for not trying to achieve things. But we clearly have tried to achieve. Again, who would have believed Stoke would spend 18 million on Imbula. But the fact that he's not playing has to be a disappointment. That has to be one in the minus column. It has to be. You can't hide from that, And I think if Berahino doesn't become what we hope he becomes, then that's another possibly 15 million. So this season on its own, underwhelming and frustrating so far.
Yeah, no, definitely. Ben, have you got anything on your foot?
No, I agree with basically everything you said. That, I mean, from a short-term perspective, maybe not so much the points we're actually picking up in the position we're in. I mean, you'd have said mid-table at the start of the season. You wouldn't have said much different now either. You're right. It's the players that we brought in as part of almost a long-term plan, and they're not being involved in that long-term plan. You're looking at Imbula, Bojan as well. The likes of them. We've not signed Bruno Martins-Indi on a long-term contract. Jack Butland's been out for much, much longer than we thought he would. So perhaps the long-term plan that we've put in place, or appear to have put in place, hasn't really kicked off yet. So perhaps this might be a case of a season not to write off, but to sort of build on what we have and look forward to next season. And that's disappointing because from a fan's point of view, we're still going to the games, we're still, watching the football, and we don't want to have to wait until the next season.
I think that was a perfect time for Hughes to start bedding in his plans for next season.
Yeah, I think so. And I think he's doing well by not starting the youth players, by starting to bring in youth players in a season that it's unlikely that we're going to achieve higher than we've ever done before.
Yeah. On that theme, Ben, I actually agree again, obviously, with what you said. I do like that he's brought Berahino on the last 2 games because he clearly isn't fit enough for the minutes he's had. But how's he going to get this fitness?
Exactly, he has to play. Yeah.
Yeah. So we can't wrap him up in cotton wool and wait for the summer. So I know what you're saying about next season. I think it'd be a shame if we do start next season with a clean slate because we should be building.
You're right.
And if we drop back next year and start with a clean slate, it's almost like starting again at 0. And that kind of worries me a little bit. But it's. I still got confidence in Hughes, but I think he'd have to admit himself that it hasn't gone how he would have hoped.
No, certainly not.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts on the Bojan loan? Do you think he should have been given some more chances, or do you think that was time and let him go out to get fit? Maybe?
I felt he was a little bit unlucky. I did an article a couple of issues ago. Last issue actually. And if you look at the games this season, Sunderland twice, Hull, Swansea, Burnley, 1 or 2 others, both Watford games, Bojan didn't play a single minute in any of those games, didn't even come on as a sub. And I wouldn't say there are no easy games.
Yeah.
They are some of the easier ones. And it kind of reminds me of what happened with Tunchai when he couldn't get a game at Stoke, and then suddenly out the blue on the famous Towelgate day, he's put up front at the Emirates Stadium on his own, does nothing at the end of the game. Tony Pulis goes, "Well, I gave him a chance."
Yeah.
And I felt like some of Bojan's chances were those instances, and I don't think Hughes done it manipulatively
purpose,
or to hang him out to dry. It is the way it's worked, and of course you could argue that we did win the games he didn't play, but he also didn't get a chance to have an influence in those. I mean, who wouldn't want to play against how bad Sunderland were in the 2 games?
Oh yeah.
So it's unfortunate because 2 years ago there was magic happening at the Britannia Stadium. I mean, even last season on that little run, the Man City game, the Everton away, and he was a big part of that. And I think what happened is we were looking to build a team around him, and now this season, because of the bad start we made in those 4 goal beatings, and that we've been playing 3 midfielders perhaps to do the job of 2, we can't squeeze him in. Or when we do, it is squeezed in. And rather than being focused around him, he's literally been stuck in here and there, and we hope he has an influence. But even then, he has scored 4 times if you count Berry in the checker trade. And I know you're going to throw back at me 2 of them were penalties. Yeah, but he earned the penalties.
Yeah.
So it's, there is that side of it. So disappointed. But, Mark Hughes makes the decisions, and we judge him on the whole, don't we? And
definitely.
Yeah.
And if this works out best for the club and the best for the player, great. But it's sad because
You'd take him back then for next season?
I don't see how he fits in. I genuinely don't. I would, but only if it was what it was last season or before he got his injury. Otherwise, I can't see the point. If he's just going to kick his heels on the bench, get a little run out,
Someone who
and
wants
then
to play football.
yeah,
That's become quite obvious.
That's right, because his career was set for greater things than it's had. This really was, and it's becoming a bit of a cliche now with any good young player. But he genuinely was the next Messi,
Broke all his records.
broke all his
Yeah.
youth records, and it kind of. I'm so glad that we had him at Stoke for as long as we did, and that we had days like his goal at Leicester and the one at Everton where again he won the penalty and converted it, and the 2-0 home win against Man City, which I think was probably as a performance against when everything clicked on a day. We got the goals in the 6-1 against Liverpool, But I think as a performance and showboating, I think the 2-0 Man City was probably a better Stoke display. And, he was a big part of that. And it's what a shame, I genuinely mean that.
I was in love with him myself.
Yeah.
So, yeah, gutted.
So I think he's gone. I can't see it coming back.
It's sad.
I mean, for me, I've said that this season's been almost a bit of a write-off. I think the reason why Bojan got kicked out of the team was we started the season with essentially no goalkeeper. We had Shea Given and Jakob Haugaard as our only keepers, and we were conceding 4 goals a game with them in goal.
Yeah.
So, not having Lee Grant or not knowing of Lee Grant's capability, we put 3 men in midfield in a sort of counterbalance to not having that goalkeeper, hoping that we could stop the run. And because Joe Allen scored, I think it was 3 goals in 3 games, something like that, and he continued his good form.
He's not really a number 10.
No, he's not a number 10. I don't think he particularly played excellently as a number 10. He scored goals, which was great, but Bojan scored goals too when he was playing, and I mean, you couldn't have dropped Joe Allen, but then if you'd have dropped the other midfielders behind him, definitely without Lee Grant in goal, we'd have conceded goals with Bojan on the pitch anyway. So, and then that's extrapolated to Bojan not having playing time, and then when he did get the one off game like he did against Wolves, I mean, he was bad because he's not been in the team for 5-6 weeks. So he needs a run on the side.
I thought he was really
player.
unlucky against Leicester. He was one of the better players.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
and he got hooked, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. And
For us to
sit back
and
against
allow a
10
2-0
men. Yeah.
lead.
I think he's still got concerns over his fitness views. I mean, I don't know whether that's true. Whether he just can't last 90 minutes.
I think what
before his
really
injury.
hurt him was he scored that equaliser at West Ham, which was a genuinely good goal. Right place, right time, tidy finish, real poacher's goal, instinctive finish. And then we played Bournemouth at home and we lost and he missed a penalty,
Yeah.
And he didn't have a great day that day, but I think that counted against him, I felt.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably did. The drinks are going dry, which is also always a good time to finish and go get some more. That has been the Bear Pit Pod. Thanks, Martin, for coming on. Make sure you do and go and buy the oatcake at the ground, because I'd like to see the oatcake go on as long as possible. I don't think it should ever die out, really, myself.
Issue 700, we hope. If we get to 700, I'll
happily.
Yeah, that'll be it, I think.
And then obviously the message board's still going.
Yeah, might be renamed in the future, I think. I'm not sure I want that to be our legacy.
But make sure you do go and get the oatcake, because obviously we do want to keep it going as long as possible. Go and subscribe to the Bear Pit Pod on iTunes, YouTube, wherever you're picking it up. And thank you for watching, listening, whatever.